Hello, everybody, and welcome to the PHLY Eagles podcast, bright and early on a Friday morning. Bo Wulf, Zach Berman, and as has become our new Friday custom, very nice to be joined by the professor himself, Deniz Selman. Deniz, how are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. How are you guys?
We're doing very well. Now, we've got a lot to get to. We're going to get into the matchup again on both sides of the ball, some of the advanced analytics you're going to tell us about. We've got some news updates from yesterday, Zach, but I do want to start. I need to apologize to the audience. We strive for accuracy on this show. Yesterday, in the discussion of the Ole Miss offense, I said Jeremiah Masoli. Of course, that was Jordan Ta'amu, not Jeremiah Masoli. So my apologies. I will be better. I'm sorry about that. Zach, do you have anything to say?
So the tale of the tape, if you will, or the breakdown of the tape between Jalen and Geno, and terrific headline today. Bo does the headlines. And
why don't we go to the tape? Let's go to the tape.
At slow speed here, correct?
They were without Geno Smith last week. Drew Lock at the helm. Sounds like there's a good chance that Geno Smith is back. We'll presume that just for the sake of the show,
Geno
but
Smith.
It's not. Isn't that what I said?
I said Jalen Smith, it sounded like.
I'm pretty sure I said Geno Smith.
Okay.
But I appreciate you grinding the show to a screeching halt.
So as it was slowed down on Spotify to 0.8 speed, I did hear Geno, the way you said it in real time sounded like Jalen. I will take responsibility for that.
Listen,
Now,
I got to enunciate better.
Now, I do want to push back on something, okay?
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So how many times in the past 6 weeks, or no, past 13 weeks and past 5 years, have you interrupted me in the middle of a point and just like, so then the one time that I interrupt you, you grind the show to a screeching halt.
Not just one show, but two shows.
Yes. So that
Let's just hear it one more time. They were without Geno Smith last week. Drew Lock at the helm. Sounds like there's a good chance that Geno Smith is back. We'll presume that just for the sake of the show,
Geno
but
Smith.
it's not. Isn't that what I said?
I said Jalen Smith, it sounded like.
I'm pretty sure I said Geno Smith.
Okay.
But I appreciate you grinding the show to a screeching halt. I mean, you're so eager to catch me in a mistake. All you had to do was wait for the Ole Miss discussion.
I was trying to set the record straight. I didn't want the audience to think that the former Notre Dame linebacker is now playing quarterback for the Seattle Seahawks.
Yes, that is the thing that they might have thought.
Well, you said Jalen Smith, or when I thought you said Jalen Smith, you said Geno Smith. So I take full responsibility. It is my fault there. But for the sake of accuracy, I wanted to make sure that the audience did not think that Pete Carroll was bringing in the former Notre Dame linebacker to play, or the Indiana Pacers power forward that they signed him.
Got it. Okay. Yes, and so apologies to the whole Masoli family because boy did we, drag Jeremiah into the mud. Okay, Zach, what were the news and updates from the Novacare complex yesterday as the Eagles got back to work?
Yeah, so they were back out there, and I think the biggest update, frankly, wasn't what was said as much as what was done, and that was there was a change from their typical, I say Wednesday schedule. Yesterday in football, in Eagles world, was a Wednesday, okay, because the game is on a Monday, so everything gets pushed back. So they operate with their back to work schedule. They typically have a walkthrough, as they've had the past few weeks, as they have in in December's the past 2 years under Sirianni, certainly last year. After that game the other day, they changed the schedule. They had a practice, not just any type of practice. They were in pads, which there are limitations from the NFLPA on the amount of padded practices you can have in the final weeks of the year. So they used one of those. I was going to say one of those. They used one of those padded practices yesterday, which is noteworthy. Now, Nick Sirianni said two things. He said, first off, they changed the Monday, gave them an extra day, which is accurate, right? He also said they had to get back to fundamentals. And as I said in yesterday's show, one thing Nick Sirianni said when I asked him on Tuesday, was it about Jalen Hurts' fumbles? He said falling to the ground is not a natural motion for some, or protecting the ball while falling to the ground. So they need to drill that in practice. And sure enough, their first drill in practice was literally ball carriers falling to the ground.
Feels a little performative.
Perhaps so, but it was noteworthy when the text came that the practice schedule was different. And then I'm in the locker room, and I'm in the locker room before walkthrough, typically on that day, and they're not putting on pads. And when I see them putting on pads, I'm like, oh, okay, this is noteworthy here. So I thought that was like the most interesting thing that come out of yesterday. As far as
I think anytime they do something differently than the way they've been doing it, it's interesting.
Yeah, and especially in response to that type of loss.
Wasn't when Quez Watkins fumbled getting up from the ground against Washington last year? Didn't they open practice with a drill getting up from the ground?
Did they?
I thought so. Yeah. I thought I remembered that. Yeah.
To their credit, they haven't fumbled getting up from the ground since.
Yeah, it was good.
Oh, so
there are only so many combinations left with the ground.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. So that stood out from Sirianni's press conference. He acknowledged that they're pissed off. He's answered the motion thing so many times, like why they don't do motion, and he continued to explain it. Although he doesn't want to be near the bottom of the league in anything, as he said. This might be one of the things that they have rabbit ears toward. I can see them incorporating more motion here, but it's just not something that this offense has majored in. And one of the things that he kind of has his backup, and he's right, is they were one of the best offenses in the league last year with one of the lowest motion rates, and it's just not a staple of their offense.
Well, let's get into this because you have some thoughts on the extreme tent poles that they have on some of these things.
I mean, Sirianni talks a lot about not wanting to be extreme in anything.
Yep.
Wise man avoids all extremes, that kind of thing. When you look at certain, metrics for this offense, I mean, they are kind of extreme in a bunch of kind of fundamental, shape of the offense type things. I mean, the 32nd in the league in motion is something that we've talked about. Now, there was a little bit more motion against Dallas, and some of it actually, you could see it kind of be useful. There's that exit motion with the running back kind of, exiting the formation at the beginning. Used that very effectively on a quarterback draw early in the game. Used it again later on an in route to Dallas Goedert. It actually worked very well on the play that A.J. Brown fumbled. I mean, the play, up until the point of the fumble, that motion helped. So saw it a little bit in that game. Still, 32nd in motion. 30th in the league at frequency of using bunch formations. And we've seen how much trouble the Eagles have against bunches on the other side of the ball. Not something they use on offense. 31st in the league at using asymmetric formations. So 3-by-1 as opposed to 2 receivers on each side. So the Eagles are 31st in the league at that. And that might seem like a small thing, but
that seems bizarre to me.
Yeah, I mean, those 2-by-2 sets, I mean, it makes it easier for defenses to disguise. Right. It also makes it easier for them to follow their coverage rules. Right. On the flip side, we've seen the Eagles defense struggle a lot with those asymmetric formations, 3-by-1, motioning into 4-by-1, combining the asymmetry with the motion, something the Chiefs did very well in the Super Bowl, things that other teams have done very well against the Eagles defense as well. 32nd, we've talked about this before, at lining up under center. And, when you look at the play action metrics, the Eagles are 8th in play action, but when you just watch the film, the play action has very little bite. I mean, it's out of shotgun. It's oftentimes just a kind of half-hearted,
right.
Like the running back is clearly not going to get the ball. He's scanning for blitzers and stuff while pretending to sort of go through the play action, and that's in part because of the fact that it's not happening from under center, and then this is more just me. Anecdotally observing from watching the film, there's just very little unusual alignment in this offense. I mean, just the play from the last game that Dallas ran. They ran a post wheel flat combination in the second quarter. It ended up being a 6-yard completion to the running back to Dowdle. Okay, so it didn't seem like a big play, but watching it, they line up from under center in the I formation with Jake Ferguson, who's a receiving tight end for them, as lined up as a fullback, and he ends up running a wheel route to combine with a post route from Brandon Cooks on the outside. And the Eagles covered the post and the wheel pretty well in that instance, but the flat still got the first down. And also running plays like that is going to make the defense think about that differently next time. I mean, they can run out of that formation. They can run that kind of thing. The Eagles do very little of that. I mean, we saw them experiment with DeVonta Smith.
I was going to say, there was like that one
out of the backfield. There was like one game where they did it twice or whatever. And that seems to be a thing too. They put in a package for one game. It's like seems to be specific to that defense maybe. And then we don't see it again. And it's one of those things that, Sirianni said yesterday, and we need to talk more about what Sirianni said in his presser yesterday about when it relates to CPOE, which we can talk about. But he said yesterday that formation, when he was asked about motion, he said that formation can give you information as well as that motion, right? But the formations don't seem to be particularly diverse. Eagles do use a lot of empty. 12% empty is the third highest in the league. So maybe that's what he meant, like lining up the running back outside and seeing if the linebacker follows him. But that's, not exactly a sophisticated.
And it's static most of the time.
Yes, exactly.
The not having it unbalanced, the 31st in 3x1 sets is so bizarre to me. It's the one that jumps out the most to me because it feels like you have this superpower of having these two elite wide receivers plus Dallas Goedert,
right.
Like to be able to move those guys around and overload the defense on one side if you can, or
right.
like isolate a guy with just one. I don't know. That feels like such a missed opportunity to me. I'm not.
Yeah,
expert,
no, it does.
That's the one to
and
me that's
sometimes
like,
you'll see
why?
offenses that rank really
What's
high
the
in these
reason?
metrics,
Yeah.
and they're terrible.
Right.
So it's like it's not obvious that just doing those things.
But that is one where from oftentimes I think that Nick's use of a wise man avoids all extremes is much more results driven than process driven. It's like we don't want to rank in like effectiveness in any category that low. But from a like building the offense standpoint, that one in particular to me is so bizarre. Why wouldn't you want to just play around with these like chess pieces that you have a little bit more?
Yeah, for sure. And it's related obviously to bunches. Like one of the ways that teams do 3x1 is they'll do a bunch on one side, and the Eagles don't do a lot of that. The route combinations in this offense seem to be a lot of two-man combinations, just a lot of combinations where we see, two slants on one side or two ins or one in and one out, that kind of thing. I don't know if those are just the things that they're comfortable calling, that they're comfortable running, but it does seem like there could be more variety.
I think the bunch formation, a number there, that's what jumps out to me for the simple reason of oftentimes the best way to design your offense is what gives you the most fits. And the best way to design.
And no wonder the defense is so bad. They never see it in practice.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. And one of the ways to design a defense is like what challenges you the most, right? So, yeah, if this is something that your defense struggles with, it will behoove you to have your offense do it.
Weird stuff.
I imagine we'll get more into Sirianni. So I'll just give quick the injury update from yesterday. Zach Cunningham, Cam Jurgens, and Darius Slay did not practice. Reed Blankenship progressing. He was limited, but he was out there. So he could potentially return from that concussion for Monday night. We'll see today. The Cunningham and Slay thing, they both have missed time with these injuries in the past or practice time, so that might be maintenance. We'll pay attention to Jurgens because he did come off the field for a bit the other day, so we'll watch that.
What was the thing with DeVonta?
Yeah, so DeVonta Smith and Hassan Reddick, when we were out there, and we're only out there for the stretching and the individual drills, they were not
only long enough to see them practicing falling.
Yeah. But they had no pads on. They weren't stretching with the team, so it was
those two guys.
And so it wasn't. So it seemed as if they weren't practicing. As it turns out, they took their normal amount of Wednesday work, just not in pads. So they were out there in team drills, just not in pads. My understanding is there's like a deloading that they might do. So early in the week, this is kind of how those guys operate, and then they build up as the week goes on.
Did the Jurgens injury happen during the game?
Yes, he came off the field in the fourth quarter, and then he came back on.
Okay, in the fourth quarter?
Second half.
Okay. I was going to say he didn't look... On the film, he just didn't look like he was moving well.
Yeah, this was the second half. He returned. He got evaluated. They announced the injury in the press box. He returned, but he was not out there, I believe, for those final few snaps because Landon Dickerson was playing center.
Yeah, but they took out everybody for those. Yeah.
But it was noteworthy to me though that Dickerson was snapping as opposed to Jurgens.
Right.
There.
Yeah.
So we'll get to everything else, but before we do, I do want to talk about AG1 because it's the time of year when we're all trying to get healthier. Anyone who listens, shout out to Mr. Vernon, who can hear how much I was coughing in recent weeks. It's important to be healthy. And AG1, I've said this before, my sister's boyfriend swears by it. Since drinking AG1, you will feel so good. Not only does AG1 deliver the healthy doses of vitamins, minerals, pre and and probiotics and more, but it's a powerful, healthy habit that's also powerfully simple. It's just one scoop mixed in water once a day, every day. I know football players who use AG1, and the thought of taking all these supplements and pills, it sounds exhausting. So don't bother in the supplement aisle at the grocery store. That's why AG1 is a game changer. It's just one scoop, and it covers your nutrient gap, supports your gut health, and promotes healthy energy levels in just 60 seconds every morning. AG1 also it takes the place of the multivitamin, pre and probiotics, and the other supplements that you might take, and it's very easy to stick to. Aging is a part of life that we all have to deal with, but this can help prevent that with all their support for brain, gut, and immune health. And all it takes, like I said, is just one scoop. AG1 is the supplement I trust to provide the support my body needs daily, and that's why I'm excited to welcome them as a new partner. Here's your chance to start every day this season with a gift to yourself. Try AG1 and get a free 1-year supply. That's a free 1-year supply of vitamin D3K2 and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase exclusively at drinkag1.com/Eagles. That's drinkag1.com/Eagles. Check it out.
Now I had a chance to meet Jenna's boyfriend, Mr. AG1,
Yes, Jeremy.
last year
Yes.
at your birthday party. Nice guy. Do you worry at all, though, that Jenna feels forced to stay with him just so that you can use him as an intro for the AG1 ad read?
No, he's a great guy. So that's more the reason. And the AG1 just makes him healthier.
Okay.
Sister's ex-boyfriend doesn't have quite as good.
Yeah,
My
no,
sister's
no,
ex-boyfriend
sister's boyfriend.
loved AG1.
Yeah,
That's
no,
not-
sister's
that is-
boyfriend.
yeah.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
All right.
And
Meanwhile,
he's a healthy. He's healthy because of AG1.
Meanwhile, if Zach's sister's boyfriend wanted to go to an Eagles game but didn't have tickets yet, he could go on Game Time, because buying tickets to your favorite events shouldn't be stressful. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater near you. With killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guarantee, you can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for the fun you'll have. They've got flash deals and last-minute tickets, easy to find and buy tickets for every kind of event in your area. Images of seat views, lowest price guarantee, event cancellation protection, job loss protection, and more. Deniz used it for the Super Bowl. What more do you need to know? It's the fastest growing ticketing app in the country for a reason. Get images of your seat before you buy so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. Buy tickets in a matter of seconds. Just
2 taps.
2 taps and you're set. Tickets are sent directly to your phone so you never have to dig through email. Tickets make great holiday gifts. So snag the tickets without the stress with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code PHLY for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem with code PHLY for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, let's sort of pivot to the Eagles offense against the Seahawks defense. And within that, I want to ask you, Zach, what Nick Sirianni said and what Jalen Hurts said when asked about Jalen Hurts' completion percentage over expected during yesterday's press conferences.
What does that mean? That's kind of what that's what Nick Sirianni said, is that for an organization that's so analytically driven, as we've documented, and that comes from the way top of the organization. When Nick Sirianni was presented with completion percentage over expected, he kind of didn't really understand what that meant, or said that. Now
He said that.
Now, a few things here. First off, was the last question of a press conference.
They had already said the press conference was over.
Yeah, so he might have just been trying to get off the stage, number one. Number two, it might have been a topic that he just didn't want to delve into. And number three, there is a very real chance that he gets this information, but it gets presented to him not with acronyms, or it gets presented to him in a digestible way. So that's another theory that could come up.
Pretty digestible way already, I think. I read it, just watching it, as more like he just wanted to get off the press conference. What did
Professor
you think?
Selman?
Yeah, well, he was already like literally standing, as he said, and he just said, "Yeah, I don't know what that means." So Jalen Hurts, to explain what it does mean,
please.
Jalen Hurts' completion percentage is 66.5% this year. That ranks 13th in the league among qualifying quarterbacks, which is just above average. but he leads the league in completion percentage over expectation, and that's a next-gen stats metric that uses the player tracker devices, and so they, at the time of the throw, where are all the players? What speed are they going? Where's the court? All that information.
The depth of target, like what are the chances of historically a pass similar to this being thrown under these conditions?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So all the historical data they have from that basically models out what is the percentage probability of a completion, and then if you complete that pass, that ends up being that much above expectation, above what it was. In the end, they average out the completion probabilities of all the throws to give you an expected completion percentage for the season. And Jalen Hurts' completion percentage, expected completion percentage for the season, this uses all the data up to the moment of the throw without what happened on the throw itself, is 61.6%, which is the second lowest in the league. The only quarterback with a lower one is Bryce Young from Carolina. And
not good company.
And no, not good company. And up until last week, Hurts was actually dead last in this metric. Now, this isn't a metric about the quarterback necessarily, and this is kind of up for debate, and we talked about some of those extremes earlier. The question becomes, is this a scheme thing, right? Is the offense not scheming people open? You look at the people who have the easiest throws according to this metric in the league, and it's Brock Purdy, it's Tua, right? It's these offenses that we know are schemed, and by far the leader in this category is Mahomes, and we know the Andy Reid offense and how it schemes people open. So I think, if I recall correctly, those guys are the top three. So the question becomes, is this Jalen not seeing the easy throws, choosing not to take the easy throws? Like he doesn't throw it to Jack Stoll when he's open. Yes. Instead, he's going to throw it to AJ when he's double covered, that kind of thing. Or is it the scheme? Is it some combination and so on? So that's the discussion that would have been interesting to hear what Sirianni thinks about that, but that wasn't going to happen.
What is your opinion?
I think it's a combination of everything. Now, one of the things the model doesn't know is, and by the way, I tweet out that graph every week now because it's interesting. Yes. It's a graph with expected completion percentage on one axis and the completion percentage above expected on the other. So Jalen Hurts is always on the extreme top left of that. Top means that he's doing a really good job completing the throws, and left means that it's difficult throws.
Yes. And
the Twitter responses are not what I'm going for at all. I mean, just like with anything on Twitter, but it's like fire Brian Johnson, kind of stuff, which is silly. I mean, first of all, it's not necessarily
not his offense, right?
It's not necessarily his offense. It's also not a metric that's meant to just evaluate whether the scheme is getting easy throws, right? It's a combination of everything. And the one thing the model doesn't know, which is important, is who you're throwing to. Right. It doesn't like adjust for the fact that you're throwing to AJ Brown and DeVonta Smith, guys who are going to be more likely to catch the ball.
So throwing a contested pass to AJ is better than one to Jalen Reagor, essentially.
Exactly. And when you look at like the Super Bowl last year, the Quez Watkins drop, I mean, on that same play, AJ Brown was kind of open too. Not that I've watched that play, many, many times over the course of the offseason.
Sounds scarred.
But that's one where the model would say the Quez Watkins throw is a higher probability of completion. Or I would tell you, no, it's not, right? Like, and so there is some of that as well, and that kind of speaks to the discussion that you guys have been having during the week about should only those three guys be getting targets? Mm-hmm. Like, is that part of the reason? Is he's not taking the easy throws to the others? Maybe there could be more throws designed for the backs in the offense.
That's what Nick Sirianni did acknowledge yesterday, that they need to get Swift involved in the passing game. Right. I think he listened to Bo on the show. So
first drive for sure, there will be a plan.
100%.
Yeah. No.
There's also. I mean, you're measuring completion percentage as if that's the goal and not like the expected value of the pass. Like even if if it's a wide open 2-yard check down, that's not necessarily better than.
Of course, right? Exactly. You're taking that deep shot for an explosive play as opposed to just getting it to 2nd and 5 or whatever. For sure. Yeah. Brian Johnson in his presser seemed to indicate when talking about like why those three guys were getting all the balls and why there were so many deep shots. He made it clearer than I've ever heard him make it like about a specific game that the single high coverages that Dallas used in that game and as they're prone to use was the reason that Jalen was taking those outside shots because the matchups were dictating that. So that'll be interesting this coming Monday night because Seattle plays
more zone.
They still play they play more zone, but they play a lot of single high zone, more single high than two high. So it'll be interesting if we see that kind of thing again.
What are the other things on this side of the matchup that are jumping out to you?
Well, let's see. In terms of Seattle, they play, again, lots of cover 3. They are really bad on late downs. So the Eagles are one of the best offenses in the league on late downs. Just looking at late down, 3rd and 4th down, EPA per play, the Eagles are 2nd. The Seattle defense is 30th. Success rate, the Eagles are 4th. The Seattle defense is 29th. So this could be a game where, hopefully it doesn't get to late downs, but that's kind of been the pattern with this offense. That should be something that they can take advantage of. And just looking at, I've only looked at Seattle's actual film for a little bit so far. The game's not till Monday. This is
playing time.
Yeah. The show's too early for a preview. This is a football Thursday here.
I know.
The Monday to Friday time.
Well, yeah, we're bound by the Monday to Friday work week. Like what are we doing here?
Yeah,
It's a football show.
It's ridiculous. They should change the school schedule when the Eagles play Monday night. But
are you a football guy in the sense that, like, yesterday was a Wednesday for you?
Oh yeah, absolutely,
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah, Sirianni and Jalen Hurts press conferences. And,
yeah.
Absolutely.
I take my daughter to school on Fridays. I'm like, wait, today's a Thursday.
Yeah, no, it messes me up
Messes me
completely.
up.
Yeah. And I've tried to get everyone's school to change their schedule, but they just won't. They won't do it.
Well, plus you've got a Monday to Monday, which is rare, which means you could really stick in the.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's true.
But the following Monday is a weird one because it's Christmas, and so there's all people are off as it is. It's a weird week.
True.
Thanks for selling that one, Bo.
It is. Seattle's defensive coordinator, Clint Hurt, was with Vic Fangio, just like Sean Desai was. But it seems to be kind of a hybrid of the Fangio philosophy and what we've seen from Seattle in the past with, a little more cover 3.
Classic,
not as much disguise as maybe the Fangio defenses are known for. And those disguise metrics, they rank pretty low.
And of course, Sean Desai was there last year. So
that's right. They were together there last year.
Any connections, Zach, between Clint Hurt and Jalen Hurts?
No, Hurt was at Louisville for a long time. Actually, he was known as a real good recruiter, I believe. D-line coach there. Then if
overlapped with Gunter Bruer?
Maybe so. Actually, maybe so. I would have to look that up, but no, I don't know of a Jalen Hurts connection. Yeah.
Okay. Hurt, of course, 2 T's.
2 T's
For Clint.
Yes.
3 if you count Clint.
You're on top of it.
That's right.
Yes.
All right. Anything else on that side of the matchup before we move sides of the ball?
No, I think that's good for that side.
All right, Zach, before we do that, give you a chance to talk about Wheelhouse.
Yes. I received a nice package in the mail yesterday from Shy Vintage Sports.
Wow.
And in the
what an influencer you are.
No, I purchased it.
Oh.
And on the receipt.
Don't they know who you are?
On the receipt, they wrote congratulations on the new show.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so it's really nice. And I say that as a way of saying that I'm not just reading these ad reads. I'm a customer, right? I'm a paying customer at Wheelhouse Cards at Shy Vintage Sports, and it's because they are the go-to sports card gift and apparel shop in the Delaware Valley. Their motto is Cards and Community because love of sports unites us all. They carry all of your favorite card brands like Topps, Chrome Baseball, and Mosaic Football, as well as T-shirts, hats, and hoodies with brands like Mitchell & Ness, 47 brand junk food starter, and of course, Shy Vintage Sports. I also put in a koozie in the package, like a Spectrum koozie.
Grunties?
Yeah.
Oh,
Excuse me.
Nice.
Yeah, so
there you go. You did get the hookup.
Looking to grade your sports card collection, Wheelhouse offers PSA grading submissions. They also host tons of different family-friendly events and birthday parties every month. Stop into either of their stores in Wayne or Westchester. Open 7 days a week at 11 a.m. Use code PHLY and get $10 off any purchase of $25 or more in store. Also, be sure to give them a follow on Instagram at Wheelhouse Cards, and I follow them now on Twitter as well.
All right. Other side of the ball, this Eagles defense that is struggling mightily right now, Deniz. Let's start on the third down defense. You talked about it last week, hoping that maybe the larger sample size of how they do on first and second down would at some point overcorrect to what they're doing on third down. Didn't happen last week. How nervous are you? How historically bad is this unit?
It's crazy. To start with last week, I know you guys talked about it earlier in the week, but it was a caricature of how bad it's been throughout the year. In the first half, the Eagles got to third down on 10 of the 17 opportunities, which is good. That's above average. They allowed 9 of those 10 to be converted. And some of those were 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2, but there was a 3rd and 9. There was a 3rd and 17. There was a 3rd and 6. And the only stop came on 3rd and 20, when Dallas wasn't even trying to convert. They just ran some short routes to try to get the field goal closer, and they didn't end up needing to because they made the 60-yarder anyway. It was just awful. I mean, for the game, Dallas had 29. So comparing first down, early downs to late downs, and again hoping for the reversion to come. In the game, Dallas had 29 first down plays. Guess how many of them they converted for first downs?
First down?
On first down. They had 29 such plays. The league average is 21%. One. They had one first down on first down the entire game. Now, we're talking about a game which was a disaster on defense. Yeah. And the only first down was a run, actually. It was a missed Kevin Byard tackle on a running play in the first drive of the game.
I was going to say
that is the only one the entire game. So of the other, the other 28,
That's wild.
got to second down. Yeah, no, it was crazy. In the end, 9 of the conversions came on second down. The other 13 came on
that
late
feels
downs.
like a Mike McCarthy fever dream. Like it's like exactly what he wanted.
Right, exactly. He wants to keep the defense off the field, right, and
yeah.
go slow and all that. Yeah, no, and they still scored points. Yeah.
So before you continue with the numbers, what do you make of that? Why do you think they are so much worse on third down?
Yeah,
and it's not, I know the players are telling us when you get into 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3, there's not a defense to call, but they're really bad on 3rd and long as well.
They're bad on all of them, right? So Brooks Skubena had an article in The Athletic this week where he broke down like into the different yardage chunks. I know you guys have talked about that as well. I'm sorry about that.
Stop that, Bo.
I'm kidding.
Yeah. 74% conversions on 1 to 3 yards to go is 14 points worse than league average. 57% on 4 to 6 yards to go, 12 points worse than league average. 47% on 7 to 9 yards to go, 14 points worse than league average. They're double-digit points worse than league average in every distance. And and so it's like how is this? And then you look, and it's like the Eagles are good on early downs, and it's like how is this so different? So shout out to you won't be offended by this one. Greg on Twitter at
Greg is it?
Greg Hart PA. So
shout out to Brooks. He's doing a good job.
This is a great account to follow, actually. Greg Hart PA, GREG HART PA. He put out some graphs on Twitter this week that showed all of the defenses in the league from 2010 to 2023 in terms of average distance to go on third down and then conversion rate allowed. So that was one of the graphs he put up. And there have only been 10 defenses out of 448 total defenses in that span, which allowed a higher conversion rate than the Eagles are this year. And they all had significantly lower average distance to go. The Eagles are like in the upper right of that graph, like all by themselves, basically. Similarly, around 10 to 15% of teams had higher average distance to go than the Eagles. Eagles are actually very good at causing a long distance to go, and none of them allowed a conversion rate anywhere close to what the Eagles are. And then when you just look at the early down versus late down EPA per play, and I'll address your question in a second about what's fundamentally different about those downs, the 2023 Eagles rank 8th out of 448 defenses in the biggest difference between the two, like the biggest discrepancy between how well they're doing on early downs and late downs. And let's talk about a defense we remember fondly, the 2017 Eagles defense, which won the Super Bowl. Might not have been good in the Super Bowl, but definitely had a big hand in getting there. Contrast between that team and this year's team, almost identical on early down EPA per play. But listen to this. On late downs, out of 448 defenses, the 2017 team was 4th in EPA per play out of 448 teams. This year's team is 443rd, 6th from last. I mean, we're talking about as opposite extremes as can be.
And all those people who cursed the picket fence defense.
That was just completely outrageous. Jim Schwartz is showing.
It worked though.
What he's saying?
No. I'm saying the criticism was outrageous.
Okay.
It worked almost every time.
Exactly.
And in the times that it didn't work, that wasn't the defense.
Yes.
It was something else.
Yeah.
It was just Corey.
As he was wanting to tell you.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Exactly. So I had to dive into this. Like what's the difference, right? Like, what is
you're terrific.
Is it just the?
I like that. This was not you diving into it.
No.
Okay.
This is just the.
Okay.
This is just the.
Now let me really, crack my knuckles. Here we go.
This is the phenomenon. This is the phenomenon. Now we have to analyze it. Yeah.
I love this.
So the biggest difference in terms of the way the Eagles approach the downs is man versus zone coverage, right? So the Eagles play man coverage on 26% of early downs, which ranks 10th most in the league. They play man coverage on 55% of late downs, which ranks 5th most. The rankings aren't that different, but still 26% versus 55%, more than double man coverage. Again, most teams use man coverage more on late downs, but the success rate in man coverage is 47%. The success rate in zone coverage is 58% for the Eagles. Defensive success rate. Sorry.
For every
overall, yeah, exactly, every down. So, yeah, I didn't want to do too much of the just restating the result, right? So it's like, are there things about man and zone? There's a little bit, but that's not all it is, right? Like there's something more to it than that. And it's hard for me to tell. I know there were questions earlier this week about why are the safeties playing so far back on fourth and short, things like that. There were a couple of, just anecdotal moments of why aren't they why isn't a linebacker in the A gap on allowing a quarterback sneak, things like that. Are there things where the defense isn't correctly optimizing for getting the stop? You know what I mean? As opposed to stopping a bigger play on that, or that
which
kind of
I
thing.
feel like if we're just on one play, that 4th and 2, it's it's the middle of the field. It's early in the game. I'm fine with that. That seems like the right move to make. But if we're talking about, is this personnel or scheme? If we're saying, well, when they go man, they're bad, that feels like it's tilted more towards personnel, right? Now, we know that they're older in the secondary. They also do there's a lot of moving parts with those guys.
Right.
Maybe that's why you don't go zone as much, because there's less consistency with the guys in the back end. You imagine more often you're going man because you're blitzing, and then we know that they're so bad when they blitz. I don't know what the answer is.
No,
there.
it's true. I mean, they're playing man more when they play almost exclusively man out of the dime package, where they have younger players in the game. So last week we saw both Eli Ricks and Keely Ringo in the game on those plays, especially after Reed Blankenship got injured. Desai felt like it was important to get that package in there, even if it meant having Ringo in there. But they played almost essentially the same coverage and rush combination. I mentioned this last week. Those 5-man rush packages on third down are something that I haven't loved.
Yeah.
And I know, Shield was talking. Am I allowed to talk about Shield?
Of course, you're allowed to talk about anyone. Brooks is doing a good job.
Okay, yeah.
Brooks
I
is doing a very good job.
I don't. Yeah, I mean, I've never met Brooks or anything. I can talk about Shield. Shield has been talking about the third down sacks being low.
Yeah.
There have been 9 sacks on third down during the year. There have been 2 on fourth down. So I don't know if you want to add those to late down.
And a lot
sacks.
on first and second down.
Yeah, more. Yeah, I guess they're 37 total. So whatever.
They're second in the league in first and second down sacks. Yeah.
Right. You could make an argument that first and second down is where there's a bigger difference between a sack and a non-sack.
As long as you're not
as long as it's
bad.
As long as
you're not. Yeah.
That, yes.
Exactly.
Yeah. For sure. For sure. But I think one of the reasons that they're
it's like getting to a third date but not getting to a fourth one, right? So.
I'm not going to touch that one.
I mean, it's coming back to Horn Zach.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know.
Never.
I don't know how we got there. But the
leave Julio.
I'm completely thrown off. So the third down rush packages are not something that I've enjoyed watching.
Right.
I mean, it's not just that they're not getting sacks. It's the way they're not getting sacks. Last week we saw this one package where Fletcher Cox is lined up on the edge. Josh Sweat is lined up over the guard, standing up, and then he backs up as if he's going to spy. And then 5 minutes later starts to loop around. I mean, it's just a little bit too much thought is going into this. I feel like you've paid these guys to rush the passer. Just kind of let them line up and rush the passer on
I agree.
third down.
I think Josh Sweat would agree as well.
I don't
want to speak for Josh, but I think he would agree as well.
Zach's clearly talked to Josh about this, but
I just think he would agree as well.
Well, yeah, for you to specifically say, I think Joshua would agree is funny. But I also, and then this is all part of the have they been playing too many snaps? Those individual guys are not performing at the individual level you would expect. I think that's all part of that as well. The good news is it's not like they have to worry about good receivers this week.
No, but there is good news. Okay, yes, the receivers are good, but the Seattle Seahawks have been absolutely horrible on third down offense, late down offense in general. When Seattle has the ball on late downs, you will be watching the 31st best late down offense against the 32nd best late down defense on Monday Night Football.
Just something has to give here.
That's by EPA.
I love a bad on bad.
By success rate, it's a little better. It's the 30th offense against the 31st defense. So hopefully this can be a get-right game. Now, the question is, will it be a get-right game for the Eagles or a get-right game for the Seattle offense? And then about the zone versus man, Geno Smith this year, fourth.
Geno, right?
I said Geno.
Okay.
And I'm not going to tell you how many times I rewound to listen yesterday. Geno Smith, 4th in success rate against zone, 25th against man. So it's really weakness against weakness. Yeah, exactly. It's going to be bad on that side of the ball. Yeah.
That's a good coaching rallying point this week. You guys might stink here, but they're even worse.
Yeah, exactly. I like that.
Yeah, they suck more is a great rallying cry.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else on this side?
No, I think that's it.
Okay. Zach, we were doing the reasons for optimism this week, right?
Actually, someone, a friend of both of ours, said to me that he complimented our shows this week. I said, thank you so much for listening.
Okay, so now we know it's a he.
Okay, and he was like, it was so funny to see Bo try to be optimistic. He had such a hard time with it, and I was like, that sounds about right.
So was it Howie?
It was not Howie. It was not Howie. It was someone we used to work. Well, it was someone on the beat. It was someone on the beat.
Okay.
Yeah.
Along those lines, one of the things that we did not talk about is like the schedule the Eagles have played this season. I know this is close to your heart, Deniz. Compared to the other good teams in the league, the Eagles the schedule the Eagles have played is much more difficult.
It's crazy. I mean, in addition to the sequence of the schedule, which we've talked about, how historically difficult these last 6 games have been, how the last 5 games, I guess, 1 to go here, but how tiring it's been for all of us. I mean, I'm tired, right? Like, I mean, it's just every week, it's like this big game that you're getting ready for. And
he's going to kill the NFL, I think.
In addition,
nobody is a bigger fan of the Eagles winning 4 straight games right now than Emily. So you don't have to travel in the playoffs.
Yes, exactly. Yes, to get that bye week. Exactly.
Need that San Francisco loss too there. But so according to PFF, using weighted EPA per play metrics, and this is not even taking into account the sequence. It's not taking into account the extra rest that both Dallas and San Francisco got the last 2 weeks. The Eagles have played the strongest schedule of offenses in the league by some margin, and the 3rd strongest schedule of defenses. And that's practically a 3-way tie. So almost, essentially, the hardest on both sides of the ball. Looking at the other teams that have won 10 or 9 games this year, none of them have played an offense harder than the 22nd hardest schedule. That was San Francisco. The rest of them, 29th, 24th, 25th, 32nd. This is just looking through the teams that are either 10-3 or 9-4 right now in the league. When you look at the strength of defenses, it's basically the same thing. San Francisco's played the 10th hardest schedule of defenses. Everybody else, 28th, 30th, 17th, 24th. So among the teams that have played difficult schedules, none of them have a very good record. I mean, the Eagles are the only one that have been able to withstand a difficult schedule like this and have a good record. So yes, the last 2 games have looked really bad, but let's not lose sight of the big picture. Let's not forget how difficult these last couple of games were. Obviously, the Eagles could have looked a lot better in those games. But let's not forget that the Eagles are 10-3 despite this the most difficult schedule in the league.
Yeah, I feel like that is more like contextual for the point differential than anything else, right? Like which we talk about is so outrageous. It's not like, it doesn't make me feel like they got less railroaded the last 2 weeks, but it's they're, they went through that gauntlet. And the reason that they're only, plus 21 is because they played such a difficult
recency bias and point differential being such main things in everybody's mind. I assume the Raiders must be Super Bowl favorites now.
That was crazy last night. I do want to add regarding the schedule that I've seen it in some parts. Like this is the byproduct of a first place schedule. That's not really the case. Kansas City, you can say that about the 2 games that were up for grabs this year.
It's only 2 games.
Were Kansas City and Minnesota.
It's
okay.
3 now.
3, you're right.
Tampa Bay was the other one.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Kansas City, Tampa Bay, and Minnesota. So those
it's hard
3
to get
games.
used to the 17 game thing.
So I don't think anyone would say Minnesota and Tampa Bay are the reasons why this schedule was difficult. Certainly, Kansas City adds to it. I think this is more 2 things: the sequence of games, like we talked about, but also the time of games. And this was supposed to be a 1:00 game in Seattle. Okay, this weekend. It's obviously now it's a Monday primetime game. Like we talked about with Fletcher Cox, they get back at 5 a.m. That changes their whole week. And we've talked about the dearth of 1:00 games. I think that contributes to the overall fatigue of the team because you can't get into a normal rhythm. Like when you're playing Sunday at 1, Sunday at 4, these guys are home at 10, 11 o'clock. Even if you're going out, it's not the same as playing all these primetime games, these Monday night games. I think that's affecting them as well because you never get your body into a normal rhythm.
And then the last thing before we get to Goose Wisely, Deniz, is you mentioned, the Niners need a loss if the Eagles are going to go 4-0, get this 1 seed. You are Mr. Playoff Scenarios. What can you tell us this week? What do we need to know?
Yeah, so if you follow me on Twitter, pinned to my profile right now is my latest on the Eagles clinching scenarios. If they finish 14-3 and if they finish 13-4, those are the ones that I have up there. I'll just go through in terms of the 3 teams the Eagles are racing against in the standings. First, Dallas. So this is for the NFC East. I hope we know by now that if the Eagles win out, they'll win the NFC East. A loss to either Seattle or Arizona would mean that the Eagles would need Dallas to lose a game. With this following caveat, that loss cannot come to Detroit. If Dallas loses to Detroit and the Eagles lose to anybody, then Dallas would win the division. And that's because, speaking to your point about the 3 games that are different, Detroit is one of those games. It's an uncommon game. And losing that game would mean that Dallas would end up with a better record among common opponents. And because the Eagles went 3-0 in those uncommon games. And so the Eagles would immediately need help from Dallas if losing a game. And that help cannot come from Detroit. It has to be one of the other games, either Buffalo, Miami, or Washington.
And they have Buffalo, Miami in a row now.
Right.
So,
if they lose to Buffalo or Miami in that scenario, it would come down to strength of victory, which is complicated, but the Eagles would almost surely get that. If the Eagles lose to the Giants, now it's complicated. Now it's worse, right? Because that's a division loss.
Yes.
And now the Dallas.
It's also Tommy DeVito.
It is, but isn't he winning like every game? So
True.
Dallas would then have to lose to Washington in order to cancel that out. Otherwise, would need Dallas to actually lose twice. So that's so if the Eagles lose to the Giants and Dallas loses to Washington, that's 1 for 1 there. The Eagles would still have the tiebreaker. But like I said, that tiebreaker would flip if the Eagles lose to the Giants and Dallas loses to somebody else, or if the Eagles lose any game and Dallas loses to Detroit, the tiebreaker would also flip. So that Detroit game is kind of like the least important of the remaining Dallas games, because losing it, obviously it would give them a loss, but it would also give them the tiebreaker there.
Okay. Good to know.
And then to beat out Detroit, maybe this is a little bit too in the weeds, but
we're already in the weeds.
The Eagles, the Eagles are obviously a game ahead of Detroit now, so just winning all the games will do it. But if the Eagles lose to Seattle, which is immediate, that's this next game, then that would give Detroit the tiebreaker over the Eagles in record versus common opponents. Seattle is a common opponent with Detroit. The Eagles and Detroit currently have 1 loss each to those common opponents. This would be a second loss for the Eagles. It would give Detroit control over finishing ahead of the Eagles. So if the Eagles do end up winning the division and then are in a tie with Detroit, a loss to Seattle there would give Detroit the tiebreaker. So the Eagles would need Detroit to lose a game. If
Does a win guarantee it for the Eagles?
No. So if the Eagles lose to somebody else, to the Giants or Arizona, then that common opponents thing would be tied. And then it would go to strength of victory, which right now it's very fun to track. I mean, for those of you into this kind of thing, is very close. Like Detroit is up by like 1 game right now, 1 win among all the adding up the wins of the teams that they beat. So yeah, that would come down to like some random game in week 18 if it actually comes down to that.
Okay.
So that's where we are.
And it's kind of nice that the San Francisco one is just so cut and dried.
It is cut and dried. 2-way tie, 3-way tie, doesn't matter. San Francisco, in all scenarios, has the tiebreaker over the Eagles. So we just flat out need to have a better record than them.
Okay. All right. You ready for some Goose Wisely, Zach?
Let's do it. I'm more prepared this week than I was last week.
All right. I believe I'm up 7-4 as we enter this week. I can go first. My first one for you, I'm asking you for a little bit of a news insight here. Ready? You get some insider trading here.
Okay.
Reed Blankenship plays or Rashad Penny plays?
Ooh, I didn't talk to Rashad yesterday. I was in Jalen Hurts press conference. I said hello to him, but I was rolling out to Hurts. I'm going to go with...
Did he say hello back?
Yeah, of course. I'm going to go Reed Blankenship plays. Rashad is kind of he's been the 4th back. I don't see that changing at this point. Maybe they go that way as a spark, but
going back to Seattle, they're not going to make him a special captain or something like that. The classic.
They typically don't do that. That was an old Peterson move, not something that the Eagles do now.
Okay. Yeah, I mean the 1 extra day for Blankenship and the fact that he was limited yesterday maybe makes it tilt that way. Okay, your turn.
Real quick, someone said, Professor Deniz, can you explain to Zach that his 3rd down sacks being more important makes no sense? My point about 3rd down sacks is it forces them off.
It's over. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. My First one here is DeAndre Swift tops the season average in receptions. So he's averaging 2.7 receptions per game.
Okay.
Or Quez Watkins tops the season average in receptions. He's averaging 1.2 receptions a game. So this is basically, are they incorporating other targets?
I like that one. That's a tough one. Because I agree that they're gonna make a point to throw a couple passes to DeAndre Swift, but 3 receptions for him might be a lot. Whereas all you need from Quez is 2. But we're not just talking targets; we're talking actual receptions. I'm gonna go with DeAndre Swift because I feel like the chances of him catching the ball when it's thrown to him are higher.
I mean, there's evidence to suggest that. That's fair enough.
Okay. Swift over 2.7, Quez over 1.2.
He had 3 against Kansas City, 3 against Miami. How many catches did DeAndre Swift? DeAndre Swift. How many catches did DeAndre Swift have against the Jets?
6?
8. I don't remember that. That's crazy. 6 against the Rams.
Oh, okay. All right, next for you, Zach. DK Metcalf tops 100 yards receiving in this game. We know that he's killed the Eagles in the last 2 times he's played them. Or any player in the game finishes with fewer than 0 yards from scrimmage.
So you're talking about a blown-up run or a blown-up pass.
We call this the Adrian Killins.
Yeah, I like that. Great reference to an Eagles-San Francisco game in 2020.
AK, as Doug Peterson called him.
Yeah. I believe he had 1 carry for a negative 11 yards.
DK Metcalf topping 100 yards. And shout out to Jordan Ta'amu. Am I pronouncing it correctly?
I think close enough.
The former. And I will give you analysis on that, except this actually ties directly into my next one. So great minds think alike, and we can kind of combine the analysis of the two.
Okay, go ahead.
A.J. Brown has more receiving yards than DK Metcalf, or DK Metcalf has more receiving yards than A.J. Brown. This is the Ole Miss over-under.
And, of course, the Eagles playing this game nearby where Jeremiah Masoli used to play.
Yes, correct.
His old stomping grounds.
This is not the first time they played against each other. They played against each other when AJ was with the Titans, and neither one had a particularly good game. Tyler Lockett had a huge game that day.
What kind of treatment do you guys think Desai is going to give DK Metcalf? I haven't really played this kind of receiver.
This style of receiver. It's interesting. And Slay, I mean, he was 3 years ago, but he got toasted in that matchup.
Oh yeah, the
playoff game.
No.
There was no crowd. It was COVID.
Yeah, that's right. The COVID year. Was that the year Jim Schwartz said to him before the game? Said to DK Metcalf before the game, "You're no Calvin Johnson."
Totally. Yeah. That was.
He complimented him. He said, "You're a great player."
What was that all about?
I don't know. But then
and DK
took such offense to it. Yeah. And Jim gave a statement.
That explains why in the end of that playoff game, Schwartz had Marcus Epps, who I think was a rookie at the time, covering DK Metcalf in man coverage on the biggest play of the game. Not that I'm not over that. The Josh McCown game? That's right.
I think he was technically a first-year player, not a rookie.
Okay.
This is tough. I'm gonna go with DK Metcalf because I think he's been hot lately, and the Eagles have other options. I don't mean it's not that they have more other options. It's just that I feel like things are flowing through DK right now, whereas it could be DeVonta for the Eagles.
As a fan of trash talk, where do you stand on DK learning sign language so he can trash talk in sign language?
I mean, 100. I'm all the way in on it. Fantastic move. Okay, AJ over DK. All right. For you, Zach, Jalen Hurts in this game has a fumble or an interception. Doesn't have to be a fumble lost. Any kind of fumble, even if it's a drop snap. Or at some point in the game, Pete Carroll runs onto the field.
Just anytime runs onto the field.
Yeah, but it has to be within regulation. It can't be when the game is over.
Yeah, but I'm saying, but not being penalized for it. Just randomly on the field.
Yeah.
High-fiving, smacking his gum.
Yes.
If the film shows that he was on the field during a play, that counts.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. I'm definitely going Pete Carroll, even though Jalen Hurts has fumbled 7 consecutive games.
But I feel like Pete Carroll. It's not just an encroachment. It's got to be he's got to be moving.
Yeah, but he's past the white. He's past the chalk.
Yeah.
I feel like every time they cut to Pete Carroll, he's on the field. Yeah.
Well, Jalen Hurts fumbles in every game. So.
Sure, this might be my golden goose.
Okay.
Actually, and we can analyze Jalen Hurts with my next one here, because I have Jalen Hurts fumbles or the Eagles win the turnover turnover margin, however you want to frame it.
Real quick on the turnovers, Eagles are 23rd at avoiding them, 25th at forcing them. Seattle is 11th at avoiding them, 17th at forcing them.
I'm gonna say Jalen Hurts fumbles, and I don't feel great about that one. But for the Eagles to win, they could tie it, they could lose it. It's a little bit, and Jalen Hurts has been sloppy with the ball. I'm gonna go with Jalen Hurts fumbles. All right, last one for you, Zach. Geno Smith or Drew Lock, whoever is the quarterback for the Seahawks in this game, has more passing yards than Jay Buhner has career home runs. And I'm not going to tell you what these numbers are.
Okay.
Or Zach Charbonnet has more running yards than Randy Johnson's career RBIs.
So Randy Johnson played for the Diamondbacks, briefly for the Astros, briefly for the Expos, but most of his time was in the American League. So I am guessing that Randy Johnson's career RBI, and I like how you didn't do plural there because it's runs batted in, not run batted ins. I am going with Charbonnet, the former Michigan running back who then transferred to Chip Kelly. So he knocked off two things from my list there, right?
That's right.
I'm going with him here. I feel like Jay Buhner. I keep hearing Frank Costanza in my head here, but Jay Buhner, he popped a lot of homers.
Okay, you've made your pick. I'll tell you the answers now.
Yep.
Randy Johnson, 40 career RBIs.
Ooh, okay.
So, that's pretty reasonable for Charbonnet. I think you made the right choice. Jay Buhner, 310 career home runs. So, there you go.
That's a good one. I like you incorporating Seattle there. I would prefer to Sean Kemp or a Gary Payton, but I'm okay with the Mariners.
Okay.
Last one from me. Eagles win by double digits, or the Eagles score fewer points than the average that Seattle allows this year, which is 24.5 points.
Oh, interesting.
Both of these could happen.
That's a good point.
I mean, you've got more faith in the defense.
I'm just saying. I just said it could.
Give me. Ooh. I mean, the Eagles have 24 is not a crazy low number. I'm going to still go with the Eagles win by double digits. I think the offense will get right to some degree.
Seattle's, in addition to being 26th in DVOA, as you guys talked about, they're also 28th in points per drive allowed. They just don't seem to be a very good defense.
All right, Zach, you've got Reed Blankenship plays over Rashad Penny plays. Quez Watkins has has at least two receptions, whereas I have DeAndre Swift has at least 3 receptions. You've got DK Metcalf goes over 100, whereas I have somebody in the game finishes with fewer than 0 yards from scrimmage. You have A.J. Brown over DK Metcalf. I have DK Metcalf over A.J. Brown. You have Pete Carroll runs onto the field. I have Jalen Hurts fumbles or has an interception. I have Jalen Hurts fumbles. You have Eagles win the turnover battle. You have Charbonnet over 40 yards. I've got Geno or Lock over 310 passing. And you've got the Eagles score fewer than 24.5 points. And I've got the Eagles win by double digits. Where do you want to put your golden egg?
Pete Carroll running onto the field. That's an easy one for me. I can't picture him on the sideline. I can only picture him running onto the field.
I will take. I don't want to do one where it's a direct head-to-head because then it could give you the points. I'm going to go with. I'm going to go with Eagles win by double digits. Why not?
Real quick, non-Eagles breaking news.
Okay.
But Philadelphia related for those who are tuning in and are not on social media. Daryl Morey has agreed to a contract extension through the 2027-2028 season, according to Woj. I'm sure you can hear all about this on the PHLY Sixers show. I love that show. I'm looking forward to the analysis there, but figured I would share that with our listeners. Opportunity is a lengthier visitor right now.
Nice. Congratulations to you.
As someone who
worships at the throne of Daryl Morey. Yeah.
Worship at the throne, but think he's a really smart guy who knows what he's doing. And I think that's a good move for the Sixers.
Okay. Yes, please check out the PHLY Sixers show coming up later today. Before we get to predictions, Deniz, I know you've got some thoughts on the jersey combinations. We'll get to that, but there is some talk in the chat. Eagles 0-2 since you've come on the show.
I was hoping no one noticed that. I mean, I was just hoping that would fly by the wayside.
How worried are we?
Well, look, I mean, anyone can just start coming on the show when the Eagles are about to play, whatever easy games were earlier in the season. I'm here for the big time. So,
okay,
I'm not going to back down.
Green on white. We're worried about this.
Well, okay, so the Eagles are going to wear white this Monday night because Seattle's wearing blue at home. But the midnight green on white. I mean, you're blaming me, but listen, the last two games, I mean, the two losses came midnight green on white. I tweet this every week, and I try to make it clear. I hate the white pants, by the way. Just so. I mean, I just don't like how they look. But since Nick Sirianni took over, the Eagles in midnight green on white are 13-13, a 500 team. This is the main jersey combination they use at home. So it's not like it's skewed for away games. It's the exact opposite. 22-3 in all other games. So wearing anything other than midnight green on white.
This includes playoffs.
Including playoffs. 22. Oh, Super Bowl loss in midnight green on white as well.
No, they won.
People tried to blame Feldman for that one. Yes. I mean, listen. The midnight green on white is just making everybody look bad, okay? Including the players. So 22-3 wearing anything else. And on Monday night, the Eagles will be wearing something else.
So Jeffrey Lurie's watching the show right now, okay? And he's... What's up, Jeffrey?
What up, playa?
I mean, just switch back to Kelly Green, and this can be avoided altogether.
So Jeffrey's watching the show, and he calls down to Greg D in the equipment room, and Greg does an outstanding job. And he's saying, I heard this on the show, on the PHLY Eagles show, and we need to change this uniform combination this week. What would your suggestion be?
I mean, you got to try. I mean, I understand they have to wear the midnight green because it's like the jersey, but
there's different pants combinations.
You could try it. Yeah, they've never worn it with black pants, for example.
Yes,
they haven't worn it with midnight green pants.
As our fashion consultant here, do you think
since the days of the vet. I don't know what it would look like. Like I can only kind of imagine it.
They did wear green on green once.
That was a long time ago.
I believe it was a Cincinnati Thursday night game. I thought they wore it in 2012. I could be wrong with the Cincinnati Thursday night game. I could be wrong.
Like a color rush thing?
No. They haven't worn all green since the vet. Okay. I'm almost sure of that.
Okay.
Yeah. 2012?
Yeah, I could be wrong. I thought that was the case, but I'll look that up.
All right, you look it up, but I don't think so.
So would you go black jerseys then? Would you go with the black?
Well, there are rules about that, right? They can't wear any, like they can only have 3 games where they don't wear like one of their primary jerseys, and they used 2 of them on Kelly Green. I'm assuming the reason they only did 2 for Kelly Green is so they could have one for the playoffs, because they're allowed to wear Kelly Green once in the playoffs as well, based on the rules. So, yeah, I like the all black, but, just as a change-up, I mean, you can't.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. All right, Zach, tell us what the line is and what your prediction is going to be. Probably 5 points or 3 points in one direction.
So the line is 3.5 points in favor of the Eagles, so road favorites. The over-under here is 47.5.
Didn't it open at 4.5? So it has dropped to 3.5?
Was that right? I've seen it at 4 at some places.
Okay.
Where I'm looking now, actually, I should look at a different place. Hold on one second, just to make sure that our partners are well covered here. But I agree with what the line is here. I think the Eagles are the better team. This isn't an OP optimist. I think the Eagles are better than the Seahawks. Seattle is a tough place to cover. The Eagles, a tough place to win. The Eagles haven't beaten the Seahawks since the 2008 season. Todd Herman scored a touchdown in that game.
Pull that up really quickly.
Actually, according to DraftKings, Eagles are 3-point favorites. So that's down to 3, and the over-under is at 48.5. But Seahawks have lost 4 in a row. This is not quite the team that they were going into the year, not the team that they were last year. I know the Eagles are struggling, but the Eagles are struggling facing top-of-the-league teams. I think the extra day helps them here. I think they can reset. I think this can be a get-right game and give them momentum going into that final 3. So I am going with the Eagles easily covering, okay? And I am going with a 31-20 victory in favor of the Eagles here. So
I feel like that's your biggest disparity of the season.
Yeah, I think the Eagles are going to actually... Yeah, should I? No, I'll stick to that. But in our Monday back and forth, we'll have that Monday email exchange. The score might be a little closer than that. But right now, I need to see the injury reports, of course. But I'm feeling pretty good about an Eagles win right now.
Okay. I am not feeling that good about an Eagles win. I'm worried. I would be worried about this game from the Eagles' perspective, just because they've gotten through the two toughest parts of that schedule doesn't mean that like the effects of it all are not still with them. They get one extra day, but this is a difficult place to play. The Seahawks certainly need this game. I think the Seahawks offense is going to be able to move the ball on the Eagles defense. I don't know what their solves are on defense at the moment. I think it's going to be a close game. I'm going to pick the Eagles to win 28-27, a nail biter. We can talk once again about the magic close game elixir of Jalen Hurts, but I don't feel great about it. I'm a little bit nervous about this game for the Eagles, but I'm taking them to win a close one. No pick from you, right?
No pick. I mean, people are already blaming me for. Get out of here.
Now you know how we feel.
Yeah. Well.
Okay. All right. That'll do it for this episode of the PHLY Eagles podcast. Check out Zach's Twitter feed for the rest of what's going on at the NovaCare complex. Read his article on allphly.com about Jeff Stoutland's perspective on Lane Johnson being nominated for the Walter Payton Man of the Year award.
Yeah, real quick on that. I just want to, so the team put out the video of
Josh Eskin in the chat, by the way, former student of mine. Anyway,
wow.
Josh, you are lucky because every time I hear Professor Selman here, I'm just envious of Wharton students. I've always been envious of Wharton students, but even more pronounced now because you get to sit in the class with the professor. When the Eagles put out that video, you all saw, and you should check that out. It was back on October 11th. The Eagles had a secret camera recording the offensive line room when Lane Johnson found out he was the nominee, and we heard how passionate Jason Kelce was. But you saw Jeff Stoutland hug Lane Johnson and say, "This is a big deal. I'm real proud of you. This is a big deal, man. I'm real proud of you." And it was heartfelt. It wasn't just you could tell there was a lot to that hug. And so I wanted to ask Jeff Stoutland specifically, why is that a big deal? Why is he so proud of Lane? And I tried to relay what Jeff said as much as he could in that story. So yeah, that's an all PHLY. I'm gonna try to turn something else around this weekend, and then we'll have our predictions and what to watch on Monday on the website. So make sure you check that out.
There you go. That'll do it for this episode of the PHLY Eagles podcast. You do check in on the kickoff show before the game on Monday. I may change my prediction. I did forget to just pick against the Eagles in every game since they waived Christian Ellis. So I'll probably do that just as a little preview of what will happen. But that's okay. Thank you for watching all the episodes this week. Good stuff here for Julia and Deniz and Zach and myself. We thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. We'll talk to you on Monday. And as always, we love you.
We all silly like the mayor.